Holy shit. I'm gonna say it like right off the bat. 5 out of 5. Okay, so today's movie is another. Well, it's not even another. It's the first one, but it is a Akira Kurosawa film. It is Ikiru. And like I said, holy shit, 5 out of 5. This movie is phenomenal. Pause the review right now and go watch this movie because oh my god. So I'm gonna just get into the plot and then we'll get into spoilers. But the plot of this movie is essentially Kanji Watanabe is this. He's this old guy who works in this city hall. He's like a bureaucrat. He's like one of the head guys in his sector. And he essentially is the guy that kind of stamps stuff like all day pretty much. And part of his job is like, it's like him stamping stuff, approving stuff. And also, like, he's not a head guy. Like, pretty much in order to really get stuff done, you have to talk to the mayor. But pretty much, as you can see in this, like, opening scene, it's, like, a bunch of them pretty much redirecting people to different departments. And it's just, like, they pretty much get nothing done. And he's been doing this for, like, 30 years. As, like, the narrator says, he's, like, pretty much a dead man. Like, he died 20 years ago, pretty much. He's just been living. And it's like one day he goes to the doctor because he has been having stomach problems, and he talks to this guy, and this guy's like, oh yeah, if the doctor says you have like a mild stomach ulcer, you literally just have stomach cancer, like that's it. Like, and he starts like listing off these symptoms, and it's like, oh yeah, if you have this, it's like, yeah, pretty much got 6 months to a year left. And the guy, like, Watanabe, he reasonably is like, holy shit, like, these are all the symptoms I've been having. And when the doctor kind of tells him, like, oh, it's just a mild stomach ulcer, you'll be fine with medicine, it's like, oh, like he was like, doc, just tell me, do I have like stomach cancer? And the doc's like, no, like, and obviously, like, we get a scene after he's already left, visibly shaken. The doctor's like, yeah, he's got like 6 months, maybe a year left. And it's like, dude, holy. And so this movie kind of just follows Watanabe as he's trying to make the most of the time that he has left. Like, first he finds this guy, this writer, and he pretty much like starts drinking and going to these like this like red light district, just areas with him to try to like have fun, make the most of his life. Then he hangs out with this girl that worked at his office because she seems so full of life, and he's like, I want to know how to live from her because she's obviously living the best life that she can. And then he eventually stumbles on like what he is like, oh no, this is what I'm going to live for in these last remaining months. And it's just like phenomenal kind of storytelling. The final scene of like, because obviously, like, spoilers, he dies like halfway through the movie, and then it's kind of like his colleagues and people from different departments kind of at his funeral kind of discussing just how he got this thing done, because he eventually decides that like oh, I'm going to see to it that this park gets built, even though I like realistically I don't have any say in like if it gets built or not. I'm going to make sure it does by insisting to the mayor and whoever is like can get this done. I'm going to insist every day and like until it gets done, and I won't die or allow myself to die until that gets done. And it's just like, wow. And this whole park kind of like part of his being is like the first scene of the movie is just them showing how awful their city hall's bureaucratic like system and just how awful it is trying to get something done, because these ladies are complaining about this like sewage that is outside their house pretty much, and it's like, hey, can we like do something about this? It's a breeding ground for mosquitoes and it's not good for my kids around. Can we like try to build a park or something there? And it just shows like a compilation of them getting redirected to pretty much every department in the city hall and no one doing anything about it. And yeah, so I'm gonna kind of get more gritty into the story and obviously spoilers, but like I said earlier, once he finds out he has like, you know, this cancer, he kind of like goes home and he overhears like his son and his like girlfriend or wife or whatever kind of talking about, because they live together, they come home and they're just talking about like, oh, when dad retires, like hopefully I'll get like his like inheritance and this, that, and whatever, because they want to like buy a new house. And he overhears it and he's like, oh well, my son doesn't care about me or anything like that, I'm not gonna tell him, you know. Obviously I'm paraphrasing, he didn't like really say anything like that, but this leads him to go to a bar and just kind of sick leave from work, and he meets this guy at a bar, and the guy's like, he tells the guy essentially like his problem, and the guy's like, dude, I'm gonna help you live, you know, the fullest. And he takes him to like this, like I said, pachinko place. He gets like a new hat, you know, like going to this red light district where there is this really powerful scene where they're in like this kind of, not club, but this place dancing. Like there's this piano player and dancing, and when the piano player is done, he asks, he's like, hey, does anyone have any requests, you know, want me to play something? And Watanabe's like, yeah, can you play this song, Life is Brief? And it's the song that came out in 1915, and it's all about how brief life is and just how you should, you know, go fall in love, like do, you know, go out and live life essentially. And it's a really kind of melancholic song, and it's this very kind of powerful scene, because once the piano player starts playing it, Watanabe starts singing the lyrics to the song, and you can see like everyone in the background like just kind of change. And it's very powerful as like the camera kind of just focuses and kind of zooms in on Watanabe as he's singing it with tears in his eyes. Like it's a really powerful scene. And after this kind of bender, obviously he goes home, and then I don't even know, like the next day or whatever, he meets up with like on his way to his house, he meets up with his like this girl that works in his office, and she's actually planning on quitting because, as she explains, the city hall bureaucratic life is terrible. And so he is like, hey, okay, like, yeah, I can stamp your resignation and stuff like that, just come back to me with my house. And it's kind of funny, like his son and his wife kind of just are like, he has like this prostitute like girlfriend or whatever, like she's really young, like what the heck, you know, like, you know. And they talk to like his uncle, or I guess his brother, technically like Watanabe's brother, about it, and Watanabe's like, oh, okay, well, good, you know, that's good for him. But he essentially was like, he asked this girl to like hang out with him and like do stuff with him, because, you know, obviously, like, she's so young and, like, full of life. He's just trying to see how she lives. And he does, like, all this stuff with her and, like, helps, like, buy stuff for her. And it's just, like, obviously he's getting, like, some kind of enjoyment from this and joy out of it. But it's not exactly kind of fulfilling, like, the rest of his life, I guess. And he eventually kind of, like, obviously after she kind of quits, he finds like the new place she's working at and is like, hey, like, come on, like, let's just hang out again, like one more time. And she's like, no, like, I can't, we've like run out of stuff to talk about, like, you need to like go do this, that, you know. And then eventually, like, she obviously agrees to like hang out with him one more night after he's like already trying to leave. And by the way, like, this guy Watanabe is in no way like a creep or anything. Like, he's just this sweet old man, you know, just trying to find a way to live the rest of his life the happiest he can and the most content he can. And he's trying to, you know, do everything to kind of live that way. And if you guys watch the movie, you'll see what I mean. But yeah, she eventually agrees, and they go out to this restaurant where he essentially like tells her, because she doesn't know that he has stomach cancer. He essentially tells her that he has stomach cancer, and he's like, that's why I've been like following you and asking, like hanging out with you a bunch. Like, you're so full of life, and I need to like know how to live like you with the remaining time that I have left. And she's like, I don't know, like I just eat and go to work, you know, which is kind of what I do. But he's like, well, what else do you do? Like, gotta do something. And she's like, I don't know, like I'm just happy like doing that. Like, I'm happy making these toys for babies, because it's like, oh, like these babies, like it's like I'm making every baby in Japan happy with the toys I'm making. And then that's kind of like an aha moment for him, because he kind of remembers back to the beginning when these ladies came in, is like, can you guys like get rid of this sewage and build a park here? And so that's kind of like his purpose now, is like him seeing that this park gets done despite all of the bureaucratic like bull crap that he kind of has to go through. And like I said, he dies like halfway through the movie. So the rest of the movie, like about maybe an hour left of the movie, is just like I said, his coworkers and, you know, parts of his family, but mainly his like coworkers and people from other departments, just kind of recounting how he got it done and just kind of putting together pieces. Because at first, like, the mayor and his team is like trying to take credit for it, and it's like, oh yeah, we're the ones that got this done. You know, he didn't really have any involvement in the project at all. But it's like, the more of the people from each department kind of tell their story on how he kind of persuaded their department to go through with their project, the more it's like, oh no, he's literally the only reason this project got done. And it's just very crazy, just kind of how it all happened. But there's this pretty much final shot of like the night that he died, because this officer comes in with his hat and essentially, you know, pays his condolences, and then tells everyone, like, you know, I found him out when it was snowing, and he was singing, you know, life is brief on this swing, and he looked so happy and just so like content with everything. And it was like, oh wow. And the scene itself is just a very powerful scene of just Watanabe swinging late at night while it's snowing, singing life is brief. It's such a good scene. Kurosawa is honestly like one of the GOATs, like for real. Like, I rank him above like Chris Nolan, Kubrick, like, you know, Spielberg. Like, just, he is so good at what he does. And like I said, like, that last scene of like Watanabe just swinging there happily is just so good and so powerful. And yeah, like, I think everyone in that like funeral room kind of realized like just how much he did and contributed to this project, making sure it got done. Like, even one of the guys said like he wasn't going to die until this project got done. Like, he didn't have time for that. And one of my like favorite quotes from this movie was that Watanabe said was, I can't afford to hate people. I haven't got that kind of time, which is kind of what tipped everyone off. Like, oh no, he knew the whole time he had this stomach cancer. He just didn't tell anyone. And that right there was just, that was a banger quote. Honestly, it's funny, I looked up that quote earlier, or like shortly after I watched it, because I was like, wow, that's such a banger. And that's kind of commonly associated with Bob Ross. I think that's a Bob Ross quote, because he did say, I remember him saying that on the show. But it's like, nah, Watanabe said it first in this Kurosawa film. Bob Ross, don't get it twisted. But yeah, it's just such like a good movie. Like I said, I think I teared up like twice while watching this. Like, once at the beginning when I was like, oh wow, his life is actually really sad, and then like it's right after the swinging scene when it's like everyone in that office is kind of like, oh yeah, we're gonna like live our life to the fullest, do what he did, stop wasting our time. And it like, I was like, oh man, because I was also thinking about him swinging. I was like, oh dude, they're really gonna like, he's impacting them, like he's gonna do that. But unfortunately, it kind of ends where it's like, oh, things are pretty much going back to the way they were. He was just kind of a one-off thing. But it's like at least he did something, and I don't think that's something any one of them or the people that use that park is going to kind of forget. It's like, oh, he's the reason why that park is there. And it's just so powerful. It's really just a man coming to terms kind of with his mortality and just his time on the planet and what he's going to do with it. And it's movies like that kind of have those questions and stuff like that are honestly my favorites to watch. I know, like I said, It's a Wonderful Life kind of has that same message, where it's like, oh, you are here for a reason to kind of do something, be grateful, make the most of your life, you know what I mean? It's like, I know there's another movie, probably Seven Samurai, kind of has that same similar message to it. But like I said, it's just so good. Kurosawa really is the GOAT. This is honestly a different type of film that he did. Like, this is kind of a more heartwarming, kind of like more real movie, because the other movies he's more well known for, like Seven Samurai, are more samurai movies. And like I said, it's just a fantastic film. If you guys are at any point like interested in watching this, I highly recommend it. It's easily one of my top 5 movies of all time. Actually, I have like my letterbox, which I'll link down in the description, but I have a letterbox, and in it I have a top 10 like movies list. Like, these are the movies that I think are like the top 10 greatest of all time, in my opinion. Obviously, like, enjoyment and personal kind of bias play a role into this, obviously, but it's literally like, it shot up to like my number 5 movie of all time. It bumped down Shawshank Redemption to 6th, which for me was my favorite movie of all time for a long time. And it bumped out 12 Angry Men out of the top 10. So La La Land is now 10th, which is honestly, 12 Angry Men is a really good movie. So like, if you guys haven't go seen that, check that one out as well. But like I said, this movie was just crazy impactful to me personally. It's like now I like want to go out and like, it's like, I can't just sit in my room and play games all day, you know what I mean? It's like, I gotta go do something. I honestly, from the 2 films I've seen, because like I said, I've only seen 12 Samurai, like, so far, this is, in my opinion, Kurosawa's best film. But yeah, that's gonna be the review. Like I said at the beginning, 5 out of 5. Holy shit. That's gonna be it for me. So if you guys like this video, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all later. Peace.